Okay, this is a guided practice 4-point slope formula that we learned in the last week or so. First of all, I want you to pause the video and copy down everything I'm writing here. I should actually add the coordinates where the point is. Okay, so once you finish copying it down, you come back to this. So let's look at this. Let's look at the red ink. When you are given a slope as well as a point, that's when you use the point slope formula. So what do I mean by that? So if I'm telling you that the slope equals 5, slope is 5. So here's my example. And my ordered pair is 2, 3. So I have coordinates. So here's my slope and here's my point. And that's when I can use point slope formula to write my equation. And how do I do that? So I'm going to change my color to orange. We can go that step by step. So first in this example, I'm going to label m equals 5. That's my slope. And then I simply copy down my coordinate 2, 3. Secondly, I'm going to write down my point slope formula, and this you need to memorize by heart, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then the third part is easy. I simply just plug it in. What do I plug in? So if you look here, here's my y1. Oops, sorry. See, it's so easy to make that mistake. Let's see if I can. All right. So if I do my red ink, here's my x1 this way, and my y1 goes down this way. Okay, so I plug it in, and m obviously is given already. So y minus y1, which is 3, m is 5, and then x minus x1, which is 2. And now all I need to do is to distribute and simplify. So 5 times x minus 5 times 2. On the left-hand side, I'm not touching anything, so I'm just bringing everything down. So again, I keep simplifying. I see 5 times 2 is 10, and there's nothing more to do on the right-hand side. And now I just need to add 3 on both sides. And that's my final answer. So again, I'm asked to write this equation when given a point as well as a slope. And you simply use this formula called point slope formula, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Now let's move on to your packet. I'm going to do a couple of them selectively. We did this in class, so this is just a reminder. I'm going to use my orange pen again. So first thing, we said it's labeled, so I already labeled all of these just to save time. x1, y1, and my slope is 0. Then I write down the equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now I simply plug it in. Be careful, where's y1? Y minus 3 equals slope is 0 times x minus x1. x1 is 5. Before I proceed further, I notice that 0 times anything is 0. So all I need to do is to simplify the right-hand side first and then bring the left-hand side down. Now I have y minus 3 equals 0. And inverse operation, if I add 3 on both sides, notice how I line up the numbers with the numbers, the x's with the x's, the y's with the y's. Now I have an equation that says y equals 3. It looks a little odd, doesn't it? Some of you are asking, where is the x? Remember, we practiced this as the special cases when we were graphing on the coordinate plane, when y equals 3, and here is 3. And this line has to pass this point without touching x, because in that equation, x does not exist. Therefore, my equation, this straight line, does not touch my x-axis. Okay? Let's look at number 2. Again, label it. After you label it, you write down the formula. Just a reminder, pause the video if I'm going too fast and rewind by 15 seconds. Then you simply plug it in. Y minus y1. Be careful. Y minus. What's y1? Y1 is negative 3. So I have to use a parenthesis. Slope is negative 1/5. X minus, what's x1? Negative 5. So now if I do double negatives on the left-hand side, I have y plus 3. Then on the right-hand side, I'm going to simplify what's inside the parentheses, which is a double negative as well and becomes positive. Now I distribute negative 1/5 times x minus negative 1/5 times 5. Some of you may choose to write plus 5 times negative 1/5. That's fine too. Notice that this 2 cancels because 5 is 5/1. So I have 1 there. On the left-hand side, all you need to do is to bring down y plus 3. Now if you subtract 3 on both sides, you should have negative 1/5 x minus 1 minus 3 is minus 4. I'm saving space by skipping one tiny step there. Okay? So that's how you do the first 2. And again, pause the video if you don't understand it. Review the steps. Label x1, y1. Label the slope. Write down the formula. Plug it in. Distribute and simplify. I'm going to move up. I will do, let me demonstrate number 6 because it's got a fraction here. I'll use red here. So I already labeled it. Now I just need to write down the formula. Now I plug the x1, y1 in. So y minus y1, again, it's negative. See how I use a parenthesis to protect it. And m is 5/8. X minus x1, x1 is negative 5. Remember, again, how I carry this x minus down, then plug in the x1. Double negative makes a positive here. I'm going to simplify the inside. Double negative makes a positive. And now if I distribute, I have 5/8x plus 5/8 times 5. There's nothing to cancel. 5 is just 5/1. So I do 5/8x plus 25/8. Y plus 4. Now, I'm going to move up a little bit. You can use your calculator if you're a little intimidated by fractions. So y plus 4, if I subtract 4 on both sides, minus 4, you can also make it into minus 32 equals 8. I'm going to write this over here, okay? So my final answer is y is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is 5/8x plus, actually it's not plus anymore. It's minus because 25 minus 32 gives me negative 7. And if you're not that familiar with this step, if this looks intimidating to you, plug it into a calculator and you should be able to get your answer. All right? So pause the video before I move on to the next page and make sure that you have every single step correct. And also make sure that you have finished the other several problems that I didn't demonstrate on this. When I get back to the office, I will check your answers. Now let's look at a couple of examples here. Let's do this zeros again. So again, I already labeled, and now I just need to copy down. Notice that I changed the colors on you again. The formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus y1 is negative 2. So careful when you plug it in. Slope is 0. I love slope. I love it when it's 0 because 0 multiplied by anything is 0. It simplifies everything. On the left-hand side, I have double negative equals a positive. And if I subtract negative 2 on both sides, I have y equals negative 2. That's the final answer. Okay. Let's do number 12. I'm going to move this up a little. Number 12, I have a slope. That's a fraction, and I have 2 negatives in my coordinates. So it's a little bit more calculation. So label it, then write down y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus y1 is negative 4, equals 9 over 4 times x minus x1, which is also negative 4. Now, double negative, I'm just going to use a different color to save some space. Double negative makes a positive. Over here, double negative makes a positive, right? What is happening there? Why do I have here? I'm going to erase this part a little bit. I don't know why I have 2 parentheses there. There we go. So now I have y plus 4, and there's 1 parenthesis here. Oh, because I was having negative 4. Okay, I got it. So now I have y plus 4 equals 9 over 4x plus 4 inside the parentheses. Now if I do my distribution, I have 9 over 4x plus 9 over 4 times 4. Remember, if I multiply it by the denominator, it just cancels. And now if I subtract 4 on both sides, again, line up the integers or the numbers, I have 9 over 4x plus 5. Okay. So pause the video and finish all the other practices before you move on with me on number 14. Okay, so let's look at number 14. Number 14 is really unique, and I have a slope that's undefined. Remember what kind of slope that's undefined? I'm going to borrow some space on the left-hand side. Remember, the shape of the slope is, the sign of the slope is that if it's positive, we're going uphill, right? If it's downhill, it's negative, because going down is always negative. If it's flat, it's a 0 slope. And when it's vertical, it's when we fall off the death valley. And this kind of slope, doesn't matter where it is, that slope is undefined. This line could be here, and it could be here. As long as it's vertical, all of them are undefined, right? So we already know in this example, this line passes through negative 3 and 5. So let's see. I'm going to change the color again just to redraw this. I'll do this in blue this time. So I have a coordinate plane that looks like this. I have x-axis, y-axis. There's a point that's negative 3, which is right here, and positive 5. So negative 3, positive 5. That's my point. Negative 3, positive 5. Okay, and I've got a line that has to be vertical but passes through that point. So what do you think that line looks like? Obviously, it looks like that. And if I have to write it down, that's, whoops, I always make this mistake. If I have to write it down, remember this line, because it's vertical and it touches the x-axis, so it's x equals negative 3. In other words, it does not matter whether y equals positive 5 or positive 2 or even negative number. This guarantees, this line guarantees that x is always negative 3 and the slope is always undefined. Okay, so again, x is always negative 3, slope is always undefined. So this doesn't require, as you can tell, very little calculation, if any at all. But what it does require is for you to understand what undefined mean for a slope. What does it look like? And then if I give you a point, how can you graph that equation and how do you write that equation? There will be more practices like this later. So for now, just keep going. Just finish the rest of it until you reach to the next one. All right, so I'm going to stop here for today. When I return to the classroom on Tuesday, we will revisit some of these practices. I hope this is helpful, guys. Have a good day and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.